Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I have with me again a very special guest to talk about a difficult but important subject. Claire Chamberlain, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. How are you today, Guy?
Yeah, I'm good. It is a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah.
I've met you through common channels, shall we say. Um, and I think this is a topic that I haven't covered in my array of episodes and guests. Um, so, can you present the topic a little bit and talk about your work and your profession? Yes.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As you say,
You're
we met
welcome.
through mutual channels, and what I do is I'm reaching out to survivors of trauma and abuse across the spectrum, really, because I am myself a survivor of childhood trauma and abuse, and then went on to subsequently be put in the situations with adult abusers because I didn't have the tools to defend myself adequately. I was very much accustomed to that behaviour towards me, and essentially as a result, I ended up putting together a healing program for this because I do believe that it should be accessible to everyone. People generally in our world, if you've got a injury of any sort, you can access help for that. There's help, even if it's not a country where it's free. There's ways to get help if you've broken your leg, for example, and you need fixing. But no one's providing those things for mental health for free and healing for free. But the damage being done is catastrophic, and that's why I've set up my free program and I'm raising awareness for that and trying to get those systems put in place in a more robust way on a wider scale.
Yeah, I have suffered through some issues of anxieties, I think, that I
Mm,
haven't talked about, but I'm not ashamed to talk about anything, actually, because this is the most healthiest way to approach anything, is to try to be as much as candid as you can, and to talk about it openly and with a with a healthy caution, maybe, but with a willingness to open up and to talk about it. Um, I deal with the anxiety and stuff like maybe social anxiety, but talking, conversing, and communicating with people freely, because I had troubles with that in the past. Um, I deal that with using art, using paintings and poems and illustrations. Oh yeah, this is also one of my artworks
it's
right
lovely.
right here. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
it,
this is one of mine. I agree with creativity as a form of healing.
yeah,
I
I'll
absolutely.
post it. I'll post it up on Facebook. I don't know which hand I'm using, but it's
It's
right
awesome,
here.
isn't it? That reverse camera
Yeah.
thing. Do you
It's
know what? I do that all the time when I've got because as you know I've got a live show on a Friday. Am I allowed to swear on your show, Guy?
yeah, yeah, of
Yeah, it's
course.
called Unbullshit Yourself. I have to
Yes.
check. I'm quite the sweary healer because I think one of the things, like you say, talking candidly and openly is really important. But I think another thing is the fact that there is such a wealth of imagery and misconception around the healing community, around mental health. And it's all very pretty and all very women meditating on mountaintops and spa days and
Yeah.
fluffy roads. And actually, the reality of healing is painful and gritty and messy and sweary. And I do very much like to live in that space and allow people to be that messy, catastrophic little tornado because that's
Yes.
that's how we get through it. You can't unravel a huge ball of wool without making a pile on the floor to begin with. It's not
Yeah.
possible.
As long as you don't start a cult in the process of healing. So, I
No.
I say that yeah, there is a big problem with holistic healing and yoga meditations and breathing and healthy diets and veganism, because everything becomes a kind of religion, a kind of mantra that you're trying to bestow on your flock, on your sheep maybe, yeah, that becomes a great problem, because people make a lot of money and they have a lot of influence and on a large amount of people who follow them. And
A
it
hundred
is
percent.
it
There's
is a
about, sorry, Guy.
no, it's fine. We can converse. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible. I get very enthusiastic, and I am known for jumping in and talking. I am terrible for it. I'm a very enthusiastic bunny when it
Please
comes.
do. Me too. Me too. I like to share my opinion. I would like people to hear my opinion, because everybody wants attention at the end
Yeah,
of the day. But
yes,
but it's the subtle art of detecting when one is able to jump into conversation and let himself be known, as we say.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, it is. And I think, like you say about being careful about the cult mentality around healing, and it's the I'm the only person you can learn this from. Whereas what I'm trying to do that I hope makes me stand out from that crowd is that my general role that I see myself as is a signposter to the correct services. So I have organised and put together my healing program that worked for me and then worked for other people I shared it with. So I started dishing it out. And I don't charge survivors ever, because I don't think they should be charged. I don't think it's a bit like war profiteering. We shouldn't be profiting off trauma survivors who are desperate for an answer. I feel like it's not quite ethical myself. But I also know that we have to make a living, and everyone does. But what I do is I charge organizations and businesses for me to go in and train their staff, to train their management, to train people to spot the signs and how to mental health wise support their people. Because I think number one, it hits people on a wider scale. I can get to more survivors that way, because I can't find them all. I'm not going to find every survivor. And also I can charge people who can afford it, and I'm not feeling like I'm doing something that's wrong. I also think that I've put together a catalogue that we call the ClearPath Toolkit. I've talked to you a little bit about the event, that's later this year. And I've put a toolkit together because there are so many organisations out there that are supporting, helping, and bolstering survivors and victims of various different kinds of abuse. And what I'm trying to do with ClearPath 2021 very much is to bring it all under one umbrella. And the ClearPath Toolkit is somewhere where you can go to, and it's like a flow chart. So is it child abuse that I need to look at? Is it domestic abuse? Is it sexual assault? Is it, and all the lists of the different kinds of abuse are all caused by one kind of perpetrator. They are all caused by the abuser that no one mentions, not named really. And I do believe that finding the root cause of this, we have to all come together as one, and we have to put these resources in one pot so that people can easily, because a lot of people like myself, didn't know what kind of abuse I'd suffered. I didn't even know I'd been an abused child. I'd been gaslit to believe I wasn't. So I never would have looked up abuse without having had some kind of education on it, which I got in my 30s. And I think that's really important. And I think that's the essence of what I'm doing, if that makes sense. I hope it does. I waffled on a bit there.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. And I think it's an important social work, even though you're not a professionally trained social worker, let's say. But I think people who want to do good and volunteer their souls into something they do, into the community, into people who need. I don't want to say that there are people who have a grandiose illusions about themselves and
Yeah,
trying to be this perfect, trying to be this messiah or something
yeah,
like this, and it
yeah,
is. And people like this are very dangerous and they are very attractive,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, it's
But
so true. If somebody's offering you all the answers, you've got to ask them you're going to ask them all the questions, then you're going to believe them. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
yes, you can suffer multiple layers of abuse, let's say, from people like this, like
Absolutely.
mediators who are trying to communicate to the other side, the mediums that try to communicate to the other side to get you to talk you to your loved ones at least one last time. And it is, and I don't know if I'm a man of science, because I do believe there is some kind of inspiration, divine inspiration, even if I can say that, in the 21st century.
Of course you can.
Um, yeah, divine century inspiration to my poems and to my art, because it's it's some kind of, it's a great blazing fire that sets in one moment, and it sets you aflame, and you have to respond, and the response to anxiety and to inspiration are the same: to create, to
Mm,
create using your whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's very true, and um, I think that, do you know what? I actually think that whatever helps is worth it. And I think that if somebody finds their faith in God, or somebody finds comfort in a medium, or if somebody finds comfort in crystals, or if somebody finds happiness in a Buddhist retreat, for example, I think that while it's there is a fine line between falling into the cult mentality, feeling like that's the only answer, and people offering that as the only answer and
Uh,
misselling it. But there
at
is also
least
something to be said
at least
finding
it's worth,
comfort.
yeah, sorry, at least it's worth the experience, to
Yeah,
experience it at least once in your lifetime. Yeah.
yeah, experience, and anywhere you can find solace from those voices in your head, from the beating heart rate, from the raised adrenaline, from the fear and the terror. If you can find a little hole and hide in somewhere from that for any amount of time, it's worth it. It's worth it. Do it. You know?
Yeah, you're trying to find solace in art and music and stuff like this that you like. um, any shiny object that really takes away the boring grayness of everyday life, maybe
Mm.
quotidian in
Yeah.
a in a nice Shakespearean language that I like so much. Talking about this, trying to get away, trying to find another reality using art, using maybe using even hallucinogenic drugs or something like this,
Mm.
that are now mainstream. Actually, I think that all the PCP and CBD and all those acid and are
Yeah.
starting to become mainstream in some circles. Yeah, but their circles are widening. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say actually, just going expanding from the finding comfort and finding a hole to hide in. It it is it is worth it for the solace, but at the same time, it doesn't heal. It doesn't heal those wounds. So it's all well and good to stick a plaster on it or wrap a quick bandage on it and, lay in a nice warm bath. That's all great, which is a sort of a metaphor for people drinking too much or possibly taking drugs or finding a thing that really is just a temporary answer to a very, very permanent problem. And I think that when it's comfortable, it's good and it gives you relief, and whatever relief and release you need, great. I'm not advocating anyone taking drugs, just to clarify, but whatever gives you release and relief, that's
Yeah,
safe
me neither. Me
safe and
neither. Yeah.
legal. It's safe
Yeah.
and legal, not release and relief, but
Yes.
but
Legal. Let's say
let's say
there are
legal.
gray areas. Yes, there are a lot of. Yeah.
You're right. But I think that basically what I'm trying to say is that all that's great, but unless you pull the plaster off and try and find that splinter or the bullet or the shrapnel that's under there and that's causing the wound to stay open and causing you to keep bleeding, you will never, ever, ever truly fully heal from it. And it's painful. It is not fun at all. When you find ways through the maze of trauma and pain and suffering and abuse and the mental health implications that you're left with and the symptoms, each step forward is, each real step forward is, you feel like you're pushing yourself through a cheese grater on purpose and then picking out the bits on the other side to see which bits you need to keep, because it's that painful, and it's not easy, and no one has got a magic wand for you, not even me, not Women's Aid, not you know, Gandhi. There's nobody with a magic wand. And it's the work. It is hard work to heal, and it is tiring and exhausting sometimes. But the other side of each layer that you peel away is just such joy, and a life you never knew existed before. And it needs to be found, and everybody deserves that life.
So thank you so much. How does a treatment or a session with your clients look like? Let's say it's a session or a program or something conscripted that is you have to work on it daily, monthly. How does it look like?
So I run free workshops for survivors, and at the moment it's based on I run competitions to get them in. So everyone just, you know, puts their name down and I pull them out of a hat at the moment, because I haven't got a full team of people trained to do this. But when I go out to businesses, it's slightly different, obviously, because they're paying. But when it comes to survivors, I do a sorting hat and pick out names and go, right, you're in this month, come on. And they come along. And at the minute it's virtual because, you know, life and pandemics and stuff. And everyone comes along and I introduce them to the reality of healing, exactly as I've just explained to you, that it isn't pretty. And if you've come here thinking that I've got all the answers, then you need to just, maybe you're not ready, because it's you that's got the answers for you. It's just we need to figure out how to unlock them, and it's hard. And then I talk about the four cornerstones of healing. So the first one is writing to heal, which is journaling. And I called it Write to Heal because a lot of people, as you'll know, have preconceptions about journaling, like Dear Diary, and they don't know what to write, and they just don't want to try it. Because
I am among those people. I cannot write. I cannot write about myself for the life of me, because I don't know. I'm not interesting to myself. I can't write about myself.
I challenge you to come to one of my workshops and still not be able to write about yourself, my friend.
Yeah, I view it I view it as the epitome of hubris in some senses, because I don't know, it's snobbery to the T, I think. Yes, snobbery.
I feel like that. So I have a question for you. Okay. If I said to you that I had an awful problem and I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't know how to figure out the solutions, and a friend of mine had suggested that I write a bullet point list of the problem, write it down, and then just have a cup of tea and come back and look at it with somebody else's eyes, would you think that sound like a good idea or a bad idea?
The problem is that you won't perform the task for its initial purpose, because you were writing to the other person, because you know that someone else is going to see it. So if you write for yourself, you're going to write in a completely different way than when you know the task is to give it to someone so he can go over it or proofread or something like this. It completely changes the purpose of the task and the task itself, the finished product. Yeah,
it absolutely does. And the thing is, with journaling and writing to heal, one of the big things with it is changing that mindset and flipping it over. So a really good introductory one is to use it as an example of pretending that you're answering somebody else's problem. And that's why, because it's easier for people to write about other people's problems or to look at other people's problems. It's one of the reasons that people that have suffered trauma involve themselves so deeply in other people's problems, because we see a friend's problem and we're like, oh, I'm in. How can I help you? I'll just quit my job and come and help you through it. You know, we'll throw our whole lives on the line to help another person.
Hyper altruism.
Yeah, when we look at ourselves, it's snobbery and conceited and self-serving. But with regards to a physical injury, if you said to me, I've got a huge splinter and I'm going to spend some time with a magnifying glass and some tweezers and I'm going to get it out of me, nobody would question that. But if you say I'm going to sit and write about my issues and see if I can figure this out, it's like, oh, hang on, it's the same thing. It's a physical injury. Like CPTSD that I've got is physical brain damage. My brain function has changed permanently as a result of what happened to me, and I want to provide it a wheelchair. And if that comes in the form of writing to heal, or grounding really does work with anxiety. Different breathing exercises, they have to be ones that work, and they have to be in the way that it works for you. And inner voice work as well, so that, there's my 4 cornerstones goes down the writing to heal, and then we go down the breathing work, which is important because it releases endorphins out of your body. It gets the adrenaline out, it lowers your heart rate. That's the main purpose of grounding. It's to bring you back to now rather than in that flight and fight response and perceiving a threat. So it's great work, and I just break down all of the questions around it instead of leaving it for trauma survivors to try and figure out when they're already questioning themselves so deeply. I just lay it out very simply and walk people through it and give them a very let's have a cup of tea and a chill out, and let's try this for the first time together, rather than you having to do it all on your own in the dark. That's my vibe there. And then we move on to inner voice work, and it is very much about identifying the narratives of toxic and not healthy people and society and your own voice, because a lot of people find that there's a lot of things that they didn't realize they believed because of someone else or something else when we get down to it. And
the problem is that society informs you a lot about how you should behave in a lot of ways, and how you should view the world, because the world is trying to be, in some sense, is running on another frequency, and you are trying to create you are running on an AM station. That's it. The world is FM. Okay. The world is monolithic. It is self-centered. It is one to rule them all. Okay, you have the rings. You have one to rule. Yes, you have one to rule them all, and it is a spiritual colonialism, because you possess the feelings and the inner workings and the lives and the aspirations of millions of people. So it is almost completely insane. But we don't live in a monarchy, I think, but there is some kind of other creature that is popping its ugly head, that is called technocracy. That is, technology is becoming the political process is becoming monarchized, and it's called technocracy. And
that's interesting.
People were divided into communities and tribes and countries and nations, but they were not that divided as we see today. There are all kinds of different companies and associations and foundations and nations and people doing this and doing that, and everybody finds a different channel. But I think we should strive to be a little bit more cohesive and more to emphasize the things that are the same, that are similar in every human being. We should strive for unity, but not for the sake of our individuality, of course. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And do you know what? I wrote a poem about 6 years ago called "Classic Misdirection," which I think you'll like. So I'll have to send it to you at some point. But,
of course.
But
I love it.
So I absolutely know that you'll love it. But I think that that's really what I'm trying to achieve with the Clear Path Conference later this year, because it's the fact that while we are divided, we can be targets to this pandemic of abuse. The rates are huge. 1 in 5 of every crime reported in the UK last year was domestic abuse related.
Yes.
20% of children growing up in the UK specifically, obviously I'm from the UK, so in the UK specifically, have been affected by child abuse. 1 in 4 women have been domestically abused. They say 97% of women have been sexually assaulted or harassed in their adult lifetime, and on average it starts at the age of 12. And that isn't a small problem. That's affecting a huge wealth of our population. And yet 80% of the funding to domestic abuse agencies has been cut in the last since 2011, and 17 refuges have closed down. And we're all fighting individually against this big monster that is the perpetrator as a whole. And we need to stand together. And that's what Clear Path's designed to do. It's designed to turn everybody's gaze one way and sit everyone on a clear path so we can walk forward together and beat this thing once and for all. We need to break it.
As they say that money is the most influencing thing, or I don't know what to call it. Nobody can classify what money is. It's not a real thing. It's not real. Money dissipates and it doesn't exist. Maybe it's paper or plastic or I don't know, virtual or crypto.
Oh, money is a social construct, as is gender.
Yes, it comes from I'm not an expert in prehistoric economy or something like this, but it comes from the bartering culture. I'm sure you know that you bought it. You sold your daughter essentially for 5 cows or something like this. It was that simple. It was I lost my original point. Damn it.
I think it was about walking together, and then the money being
the money not being really. God damn it. No. I lost it. God damn.
Oh no. Oh, do you know what? I think that it happens to me more often. But you know, that's an anxiety symptom. You know, losing trains of thought. It's a really tough one to get over as well. I found that my short-term memory was really affected.
Oh yeah, I got it back. Sorry, I got it back. So they say that money is the most influencing, most powerful thing in the world, but it's not. I think the ego and self-preservation that is the most powerful force in the universe, shall we say?
Because belief structures that are designed to make people selfish and greedy and hurt other people fit into the natural protection of ego. So if somebody has an unhealthy ego or very low self-esteem or has been brought up to believe that they deserve X, Y, and Z, those McDonaldization, the capitalism, everything else fits very much in with that narrative for them, and it grows and it's ugly.
Why don't they just turn all the Starbucks into, I don't know, homeless shelters or something like this, or battered women's shelters or orphanages?
It would be amazing if more was done, which is why we have to do the campaign. I mean, the conference is later this year and it's virtual, so anyone from anywhere across the world can take a look. And I'm going to be interested to see what we can do with this, because I feel that we've got something here. It's based on lots of studies. We've got some amazing speakers, and we've come from every faction of the survivorship and healing community in terms of who needs to be healed and who needs to be targeted in terms of help and support and the education side of it. And it's on the 30th of September, so I'd love to see you there, Guy. It'd be amazing. But yeah, we just I think that there are ways forward and there are ways to break these awful and toxic patterns, but we just all have to stand together with it. And you're absolutely right, unity is the answer.
Yeah, but I think that we should have, before we judge someone or we talk about a topic, or we try to analyze an event that happened or something horrible or some kind of even a natural disaster or something like this, that are, let's say there is a rock concert and there was a stampede and a lot of people died, and you say those people are stupid. because they were gathering around in one small place and they have nowhere to. You can't say that, and you can't judge before you see, before you get further information, further evidence. You got to have time that has passed by, and you have to wait for the fog to dissipate before you talk about the topic. And I
Yeah.
think we have to have compassion on the one hand, and better developing better tools of
Yes.
to analyze, shall we say, the world that we live in, because there is this scientific method, but it's dull, it's old, it's it's conscriptive, it's not helping the human spirit. um, it's just a tool, so I want to thank you so much for
It's
this
been lovely. It's
lovely.
a pleasure speaking to you. Do you know what? You're so interesting. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and your thoughts on what I've been saying and stuff. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much for having me on.
I want to thank you so much, and we have future conversations coming up, I think, because we
Absolutely.
haven't gotten to the bottom lines, and we have to qualify our arguments and our understandings. And I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.